Okay, let's get into this. We're doing a deep dive today into the very foundations of early Buddhist psychological training.
Mm.
We've been handed some fantastic sources, Bhikkhu Analayo's work specifically, that really detail the path to insight. So our mission today is to cut through some of the density.
Yeah, to give you, the listener, the actual mechanics of what the texts are calling the path.
Exactly. And it seems to boil down to two core interlocking concepts:
That's right. First, there's Vedana,
the structure of feeling tones and how we relate to them.
and second, Anapanasati, which is this highly structured 16-step system of mindfulness of breathing.
And the goal isn't just to define these terms.
No, not at all. It's to explain how they function as a practical, step-by-step glide path to awakening. And we have these incredible historical examples to back it up.
The early nuns.
The early nuns who really mastered this.
So let's jump straight into Vedana. The sources are really clear on this. Every single moment of experience is colored by one of three feeling tones.
Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Simple as that.
But here's where it gets, really counterintuitive for most of us. The normal reaction, the habit, is to try and manipulate the Vedana itself.
To chase the pleasant feeling, push away the painful one.
Right. And the texts say that's completely misguided.
Well, what's fascinating here is that the sources call for a radical reorientation of your attention. They teach that when a feeling arises, wise attention doesn't try to change its flavor.
So what does it do?
It directs your attention inward to discern the simple, empty, conditional nature of the Vedana itself. It's a moment of seeing. This feeling is arising, it is changing, and it will cease.
That realization that a feeling is just a conditional event, that it doesn't belong to it, that sounds so liberating.
Right.
But also, intellectually, kind of terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
If I feel pain, my immediate reaction is, this is my pain, I have to fix my problem.
And that is precisely the appropriation the practice is trying to dismantle. That shift happens when you recognize that Vedana is impermanent. If you fully grasp that a feeling is conditional.
Then you realize it can't provide any lasting satisfaction.
Exactly. And that inability is the very definition of suffering, or dukkha, in the liberating sense of the word.
This brings us straight to a point of confusion for a lot of people, and the sources are very specific about this. The Pali term dukkha.
It does double duty.
Yes, and we have to distinguish the two meanings.
We absolutely must. On a basic level, dukkha just means painful vedana, bodily or mental pain. But when we talk about liberating insight, dukkha takes on a much deeper meaning.
It refers to the inherent unsatisfactory nature of all conditioned existence.
Precisely.
So if I buy a brand new car, that's a pleasant Vedana. But because the car is conditional, it'll rust, it'll break, my enjoyment of it will fade. The entire experience is permeated by dukkha in that bigger philosophical sense.
Exactly. It can't provide lasting satisfaction simply because it's impermanent. And grasping that impermanence makes even pleasant feelings unreliable is the key to letting go.
So that's the world of difference. You stop fighting the symptom, the unpleasant feeling, and you start looking at the cause.
Which is the clinging. The clinging to the impermanent nature of the feeling itself.
And the texts don't stop there, do they? They classify experience with incredible detail, beyond just pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral.
Oh, yeah. They get very granular. It helps us map our attachments. First, they split Vedana into worldly and unworldly types.
Worldly types being the ones tied to defilements.
Exactly. Passion, aversion, delusion. These are the feelings that just dig us deeper into suffering.
And the unworldly ones.
They're related to renunciation. This includes that subtle joy and happiness that arises in meditation. They call it non-sensual delight.
Which you find in the absorptions.
Right. And the supreme type of that joy is linked to full awakening, described as the destruction of the mental inflexes. A very powerful way of saying you've ended greed, hatred, and delusion.
We also hear about the 5 Vedanas based on the sense faculties.
Yes, that's where it gets even more precise. It separates bodily pleasure from bodily pain and mental delight, somanasa, from mental sadness, domanassa.
And then there's the neutral feeling, equanimity.
Unpack, yes. But no matter the flavor, the fundamental problem is always the same.
Clinging.
It always comes back to clinging.
So if we step back, why is clinging to a pleasant feeling, which is gratifying in the moment, why is that described as a disadvantage?
Because, as the source says, that gratification is inexorably intertwined with a disadvantage.
which is its impermanence.
It's rooted in its impermanence. You're just setting yourself up for future loss. When you cling, you're trying to own something that is intrinsically conditional and changing. The more you cling, the more you suffer when it ends.
So the crucial takeaway for you, the listener, is to interrupt that mechanism, to stop personalizing the feeling.
Right. It's moving from my pain to simply pain.
That's a huge cognitive shift.
It is. The sources talk about directing your attention away from that fictional self that's claiming the feeling and toward the feeling's conditional nature. You perceive the body being afflicted, not my body.
And that simple act of sort of semantic detachment, that's where the process of non-appropriation begins.
That's the entry point.
Okay, so we have the map of feelings and the problem of clinging. But the sources provide this incredibly rigorous, actionable roadmap out of it. Let's talk about anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, as that practical glide path.
It is the ultimate tool for this. It's structured as 16 steps in 4 groups, or tetrads, and this whole process is explicitly linked to the 4 establishments of mindfulness, the satipatthanas.
That link is critical, isn't it? It means this isn't just a calming exercise.
Not at all. It's considered the primary structured entryway into the entire system of liberating insight.
So let's break it down. Tetrad 1, contemplation of the body.
This starts with just discerning the long breath, then the short breath, then experiencing the whole body of breath, and finally, calming bodily activity.
Why the breath?
Because it's the most immediate, palpable manifestation of the wind element. It makes it a perfect, neutral object for directly experiencing impermanence. You see it arise, change, and disappear hundreds of times a minute.
And the result is a deep bodily relaxation.
A deep calm that starts to seep into your daily life. Greater bodily stability.
Then, once that foundation is calm, we move to Tetrad 2, contemplation of feeling tones. This is where the practice actively works with Vedana.
Right. The steps here are experiencing joy, experiencing happiness, experiencing mental activity, and calming mental activity.
And this is where the wisdom really kicks in.
It is, because the breath itself is often a neutral sensation, and the underlying tendency that comes with neutral feelings, according to the sources, is ignorance. Boredom. The mind wanders off looking for something more exciting.
So the practice proactively generates its own positive energy to fight that.
Precisely. By systematically cultivating non-sensual joy, piti, and happiness, sukha, you intentionally turn the neutral sensation of the breath into a pleasant one.
Which gives the mind the stability it needs to overcome distraction.
Exactly. It's a way of generating positive momentum so the mind stops searching outside for gratification. This is really where the practice starts to still those distracting thoughts.
That makes perfect sense. Then we get to Tetrad 3, contemplation of the mind, where the insights get, well, they get very deep.
They do. The steps are experiencing the mind, gladdening it, concentrating it, and liberating it. And the crucial insight here comes from watching the breath change.
Okay.
If the mind knows the changing breath, then the mind that knows must also be impermanent.
If the knowing mind were permanent, it couldn't cognize change.
It couldn't. The practitioner realizes the mind isn't a fixed thing, a self, but a continuous process of knowing.
That's a huge conceptual hurdle to get over. You're using the breath to show the body's impermanence, and then using the active observation to show the observer's impermanence.
It's the ultimate self-referential dismantling. You learn that clinging to the idea of a permanent mind is just as futile as clinging to a pleasant feeling.
And finally, Tetrad 4, contemplation of dharmas, or profound insight. This is the culmination of the whole path.
This is where it all leads. The 4 steps are contemplating impermanence, contemplating dispassion, viraga, contemplating cessation, nirodha, and contemplating letting go.
And the specific terms here are vital.
Very. Viraga means fading away, the cooling down of craving. Nirodha is cessation, which explicitly links the practice to realizing the third noble truth. It all culminates in supreme freedom. The mind starts to incline toward the unconditioned reality of nirvana.
So we have the mechanics. Let's see this theory in human form. The sources detail the achievements of the Buddha's earliest disciples, specifically the nuns. They are incredible role models.
Absolutely. These historical figures ground the theory in something attainable. And it's important to remember, as the sources note, that the textual transmission was sometimes, well, heavily influenced by reciters who were not particularly well disposed toward the nuns.
But their achievements still shine through.
Clearly, despite any potential bias in the recording.
Let's start with Mahapajapati Gotami, who founded the Order of Nuns. Her devotion seems immense.
It really was. When she accepted the 8 rules of respect for her ordination, A parallel discourse describes her joy as being like a noblewoman accepting a decorative head wreath. It was a triumph.
And her achievement was staggering.
It was. She and her 500 followers performed the twin miracle and completed a full meditative tour through the deepest absorptions, all the way to cessation before passing into nirvana. This shows it wasn't just an isolated achievement, it was a path of mastery shared by a community.
And their mastery made them impervious to spiritual interference. We have these stories of them defeating Mara, who represents inner obstacles.
The nun Soma is a prime example. Mara challenges her, saying that spiritual attainment depends on being male.
And she just refutes it.
Powerfully. She affirms that attainment depends only on cultivating the mind, irrespective of sex or gender. She directly dismantles that conceit.
And then there's Ubalavan, another prominent nun, who demonstrated the power of deep concentration.
Upalavan achieved superb meditative mastery and supernormal potency. The accounts show her remaining completely unperturbed intellectually and emotionally when Mara tries to challenge her. Her stability is a clear example of mastering that third tetrad.
Liberating the mind.
Exactly.
And this mastery wasn't just for monastics. Figures like Dhammadinna were amazing teachers.
Dhammadinna was so eminent in her ability to discourse on the teachings. She clearly differentiated between the path, the eightfold path, which is conditioned, and cessation, nirvata, which is unconditioned.
So she could link theory to practice.
Perfectly. She even categorized Vedanas by whether they increase defilements or help abandon them. Very practical.
And finally, the story of the laywoman Nandamata. This really brings the stability gained from Anapanasati into a deeply painful real-world context.
It does. Nandamata wasn't a nun, but a laywoman who was a non-returner. That means she had already mastered the four absorptions.
So she had a superb balance of the mind.
And the sources say she maintained her mental equilibrium even when facing the killing of her only son. Her ability to hold that unwavering state of mind in the midst of such profound suffering, it directly shows the result of mastering the equanimity steps of the practice.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've synthesized the theory of feeling tones, the practical glide path of the 16 steps, and the concrete results from these masters. So what's the final synthesis for the listener?
I think it means that the entire purpose of this rigorous, structured knowledge is to cultivate the radical ability to let go completely.
Those final four contemplations.
Impermanence, dispassion, cessation, and letting go. That's the ultimate mechanism for inclining the mind towards supreme, unconditioned freedom. And that freedom requires letting go not just of things out there, but of the internal ownership of experience itself.
And that whole journey culminates in Nirvana, where the mind's tendency to create stories around feelings finally just stops.
Yes. And here's the final provocative thought for you to consider. It ties the structure of feeling tones right back to the spiritual path itself. The texts discuss conceit, pride, ego, including superiority conceit, like historical gender biases, as an entity that is intimately bound up with Vedana.
Conceit arises from the feeling structure.
It does. The ultimate cessation of all feeling tones in the realization of nirvana is described as the very experience where any basis for the notion of a self completely disappears. This deep, structured knowledge doesn't just teach freedom from attachment to the world, it teaches freedom from the self-referential conceit that colors even our highest spiritual striving.
So the path out of suffering begins by recognizing that the feeling you have, good or bad, was never really yours to begin with.
Exactly. It was never yours.